Hello, welcome to my bedroom. So nice to see you again. I've rearranged in here since the last time I filmed, so it might look a little different. Not that different. I mean, it's still the same stuff, but in different places. So, 2016 is almost over. Thank God. Our suffering has nearly ended. And I wanted to talk about some of the most hyped albums we had this year and reflect on my thoughts on them. Obviously, this is just my opinion. I am a firm believer in the idea that we can't label music or any art as good or bad. We can use words like important, unique, likable. You know, we can describe it, but what's good and bad is very personal. I think if you like an album or a musician or a song, then it's good to you. Might be bad to somebody else. There's plenty of stuff that I like that I know isn't exactly the pinnacle of musical achievement. And there's plenty of stuff that I don't like that I know is really important to music history. So, for that reason, these are... Can you hear my dog in the background? So, basically, don't think that I'm just trying to decide for you how you should feel. Oh, hey! What's up? Oh, hey! This is Crusher. I guess she's here now. What's up? What are you doing? Just saying hey? So, you're just gonna sit there then? Alright, cool. So, I'm gonna start with Joanne, by Lady Gaga. So, I'm big on Gaga, alright? She's my queen. I have said this before. And since I covered Perfect Illusion, hopefully it should be clear that I liked Perfect Illusion. Joanne, the whole album, I really think it's great. I think it shows so much growth in her music. It's insane to me how different it is from all of her other stuff. And I mean that in the best way, because, like I said, it's growth, it's moving forward, it's a new image, it's a new vibe completely. And I think that turns a lot of people off to it, and I get that. If you wanted dance songs, then I'm sure you were not happy about Joanne. So I don't disrespect the idea that it's, like, so different that it's bad. I just think it's so different that it's good. It's funny because this comes after Art Pop, which was quite the assortment. And what's funny is the problem with Art Pop was you could tell Gaga didn't know her own style anymore, and she had kind of lost sight of what was making her Gaga. And so I think that failure probably really shook her. I wouldn't blame her. It must have been really lame to work so hard on something and then it be poorly received. So I think that Joanne was her forgetting everything about what she's done before and just making something honest. Because that's what made Art Pop not that good, is that it wasn't honest. It was an imitation of what she'd done before and an attempt to find out what made that good. The sun has changed. Sun. Okay, hopefully this doesn't look terrible. And I would definitely say that some of the criticisms of its simplicity are fair. A few people have felt that just because it's honest doesn't mean that you can get away with something as basic. Like, I'm thinking of A Million Reasons, where, wow, is that a basic song? I mean, it's so sweet in a sad way. I mean, it's like, it's real. Like I've said many times, it's real, but those lyrics are not that creative, and the chords are so basic, the arrangement, piano and guitar, wow, never thought of that one before. So I definitely know that it's not a crowning achievement, I feel like, but just the fact that it's such a redirection is good. Next is Starboy by The Weeknd. I was really excited for this album because I'm not that familiar with The Weeknd's vibe. Like, I listened to a good chunk of his stuff, but I don't feel like I've gotten a good idea. Like, who are you? It's funny because I keep thinking of shows like Project Runway and RuPaul's Drag Race. The judges will critique you if they don't feel like they know who you are as a designer or as a drag queen. They'll be like, but who are you really? You can't be too versatile. you have to have an image. You have to have a brand. And that's how I felt about The Weeknd. I wasn't sure I was getting his brand. Maybe he totally had one. He probably did, and I just wasn't seeing it. So I was hopeful that if I really started from beginning to end with Starboy, it'd be more of a concept album. I feel like that goal was definitely reached, but the concept was lost sometimes just because there were so many songs. Like, it felt like it was flirting on not being a concept album anymore and leaning on just a group of songs together. See, there was the time when albums weren't just a bunch of songs. They had some sort of cohesive... A concept album sort of indicates that it has a full storyline or something very specific. But I want albums to be more of a concept than just a bunch of songs. They should have some sort of relationship, because you can just release songs as singles, and you don't need to... I don't see why it should just be songs. Why would you release an album if they don't have anything to do with each other? So, this was definitely a concept. There was definitely a clear line and connection, but there were too many songs. It seems like the longer it goes on, the concept keeps getting lost to just have the songs on the album. So that's not as good as it could be, but I liked a lot of the songs. I loved the title track, Starboy. I thought it was just right. I thought it was perfect. And, I will say the topic of Starboy, which is like, now I'm famous, but I'm just a regular kid. What am I gonna do now? So this one wasn't the most original idea, but I do think the execution was a new perspective, or at least a somewhat new perspective. Okay, slight topic change, but I have this huge pet peeve where people refer to The Weeknd as a rapper or hip-hop artist. He's a pop vocalist. Like, he's never rapped. Like, I've heard. Maybe there's some secret tapes, but he's a pop vocalist. And that's not a negative thing. It's fine. It's a thing people do. It's just not accurate to call him rap. Hip-hop's quite a stretch. It just seems so obvious to me people say that because he's black. Like, if you're black and an artist, you must be doing one of the black genres. But he's so obviously a I don't understand. It just doesn't make sense to me. A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead. This album, I didn't hear anything about this album until it happened. So I'm not sure if that was a marketing choice or if I was just living under a fucking rock. But, it was good. It was very good. It made so much sense. I talked earlier about Gaga's progression of, like, success, oh my gosh, she's huge, and, like, this plummet, and then she's just going a whole other direction. I mean, it's totally different. Radiohead, their response seems to be just, it's not about how they've been before at all. It's really just, like, we made this album. It's the most... I don't know, I don't see it following a path, and I mean that in the best way. It seems like coming back to the core of what rock should be about. Admittedly, of all the albums I've heard in my life, it's not the most rock, but I would consider them a rock band. And it was so ethereal. It was very flowing, and they were smart to go that direction. I don't know if they chose that out of just, hey, that's what we want to do, or... hey, that's kind of big right now. I don't really care. They can do whatever they want. But I think that was a good choice because that kind of flowing, relaxing vibe is a bit more popular than it used to be. I mean, sometimes. I don't know. I'm not exactly, like, a pop analyst. I honestly am not that in touch with what's popular. Like, I obviously have listened to these albums, so I'm not that dead. But sometimes I'll turn on the radio and it'll be like a regular hit station and I'm like, I've never heard of this person or this song before. Like, what's happening? So, A Moon-Shaped Pool, pretty quick review because I don't have anything too specific to say about it. But I like it. It's one of my favorite Radiohead albums. Because my favorites before were Kid A and OK Computer. Not that I hate any Radiohead album, they're all great, but I think that follows that path more, I guess. Complete shift from Radiohead. But Lemonade, Beyonce, I mean, so good. It makes so much sense. Have I said this about a lot of albums? It makes so much sense. It's so good. A lot of people have questioned whether or not the events described in Lemonade are real, or if it's really more of a publicity stunt. I could not care less. The songs are good. If all these things really did happen, then this album really is such a shift in the way music has been made for a while now. I don't want to sound like a hipster, but I feel like a long time ago, I don't mean like the 80s, I mean like a long time ago, music was made irreverently to popular opinion. And it was more about expression. And these days, I feel a lot more music is made based on a formula of what will be successful. I really don't hate that. That's just my observation. And I think that if Beyonce really did have this horrible experience and turn that into music and express herself how she felt, it wasn't just an album, it was a visual album, and there was spoken word elements, and there were these really beautiful videos, and there was, I mean, I'm thinking about Hold Up in the music video, in the spoken word section. God, that is raw. I mean, geez. Even Gaga didn't go that hard. I mean, she's so blatant about it all, and I find that so amazing. If it is fake and just made to make an album, I think it's amazing that she encapsulated so many specific feelings without having actually experienced them too specifically. So either way, it's a huge win. I loved it. One thing that did bother me a little bit is, it's not a real complaint, it's just me being a nerd. 6-inch, actually featuring The Weeknd, the sample, I know the song that it's sampling, like, actually, like, I listened to that song, and it kind of always upsets me when I recognize a sample, because I know that people will listen to that song now and be able to tell that it's the Beyonce song, but I'm like, no, it's not. It's not, though. It's a whole other song. So that's why I don't like when people sample from, like, smaller artists, because it does really kind of feel like they're stealing in a way. I know that the people get proper credit when things are sampled, but not in a way that the average listener will be able to recognize. So it just makes me a little sad, like, I knew that song before everyone else knew it because Beyonce sampled it. But it's a good song. Anti by Rihanna. I've listened to a lot more Rihanna than I have The Weeknd, and I was still in the same boat I was in with The Weeknd, where I felt like I hadn't gotten an idea of who Rihanna is as a musician. And so in the 2000s, a lot of pop hits were producers wrote a song, wrote lyrics, gave instructions, directed the whole thing, and the vocalist puts in the vocals, and it's done, and they've had almost no impact on the actual song, but they performed it, so it's their name. I mean, it's not like the songwriters and producers don't get any credit, they get a ton of money, so it's fine, but everyone's like, oh, this pop star, but in reality, they're just a team, and the pop star is attractive and okay at vocals. And so I wasn't able to discern who was going to really make it through the 2000s into the future, and who was going to kind of dissipate. A lot of people dissipated, but Gaga stayed and Rihanna stayed, and I'm glad they did, because I'm going to call it Anti. It's good. It's really good. It's so... it feels like Rihanna had at least some impact on this. I don't know how much songwriting credit Rihanna has gotten or deserves, but I feel like Rihanna actually has at least been inspired by events in her life and her culture and her perspective in the way that she does these things. And that just makes me happy. It's at least a little bit more into what is Rihanna really like. And so it feels like a reveal of more of her influences. I like that it's a little bit more reggae. I don't love reggae, but I like that it has a lot more influences than just pop. And lastly, Life of Pablo by Kanye West. It's been a real happy video up until now. Been a lot of positive reviews. Well. Did you see that? Well, we've had a fun time, haven't we? Isn't it so sad that we have to end on Life of Pablo? Where do I even start with Life of... Girl, you just kicked me. Rude. Where do I even start with Life of Pablo? Discombobulated comes to mind. That's the word I would probably lean on most in describing Life of Pablo. Life of Pablo wasn't really released. It was like spurted out uncomfortably in little chunks, and then it was like, no, bring that back, and like they would slurp it back. It was really uncomfortable to watch. And understandably, the album became just chunks and pieces. It didn't really flow, didn't make sense to me. It didn't tell a story I wanted to hear about, and it seemed... A lot of people feel like it's different from his other stuff, but I honestly think it's more similar than a lot of people would think. So, here's what drives me nuts. The Life of Pablo, critically, was very well received once it was finished. When it first came out, everyone hated it, like, critically. And they said awful things about it. It's terrible, it doesn't make any sense. And so somewhere between when it actually came out and when it was actually done, something happened, because now it is on, I counted, it is on 42 best of 2016 lists from different music news sites, and also not music, like Time magazine. This frustrates me. Okay, look, I said at the beginning of the video that my opinion is just me, and that what other people feel is just their business, and I stand by that. But critics annoy me, because critics tend to be speaking for a group. They tend to be saying, this album's good, you should listen to it. This album's bad, you shouldn't. They're deciding for other people. So, I don't like whatever they say, but I especially don't like when they disagree with me, because that pisses me off even more. Nobody likes to disagree with critics, I feel like. But I really don't get it. I mean, what's crazy is the negative things they said at first about it are the positive things they're saying now. My personal favorite is people saying things like, oh, well, you know, it's very disconnected and it's pieces and it's discombobulated, but that's its charm. Okay, let me tell y'all something. So, like, in punk, having a vocalist that's a little bit out of key is kind of a trend. It's kind of an important... It serves a point. It makes a statement about what's pretty and clean versus punk, which is grungy and gross. So, I get that. Kanye West hasn't been about that. And also, like, small bands, like local bands, when their stuff is crappy, it can be charming, because you know that they're exhausting their resources to make it good, and maybe it's not developed yet, and it's like, oh, it's like a little baby. Like, it's kind of weird looking, but it's gonna get better, it's gonna grow, and it's gonna evolve. That's when something can be discombobulated and charming, or broken and charming, or abnormal in a really unpleasant way and charming. So I think that's possible. What I don't think is that Kanye West can be so shabby. I mean, it's in shambles. and it's charming, Kanye West is not recording in a fucking garage. Kanye West doesn't come home and change out of his In-N-Out uniform and then go to a gig. That's what makes it charming, is because it's real and it's down to earth. And Kanye West, inherently, his character is wild and crazy, and he has an insane amount of resources at his disposal. So I think it's insulting for him to release something so confusing. Like, what? It doesn't make... And look, obviously, I still feel that if you like any album, then good for you. And I really wish I enjoyed it, because I like liking things more than I like disliking things. As much as my rage fuels my body and gives me energy, and I wake up in the morning and inhale my rage and I use that, that doesn't mean that I like to be hateful. And I'm not just discriminating against Kanye because he does things that I really don't appreciate as a person in the spotlight. Because even after everything he's been through, I have still always thought of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy as a masterpiece. I think it's incredible. So, it's obvious that I can still like his stuff. And I wanted this to be good. I did. I really did. I don't like to dislike things. So, what I don't get here is, well, any of it. I don't get any of it. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. Maybe it's really just going over my head. But it feels broken. So many of the tracks are like, what? It kind of feels like he's trying to make it sound like he's trying to do something like meaningful and sweet. He has songs about his daughter. I think that's nice. That he has songs about his daughter. But it's not coming through. And I'm not at all shocked that it's not coming through, because it's just not right. If Kanye wants to do an honest, meaningful, soulful singer-songwriter album, he's got to do some serious self-reflection, because he's not ready. Because this album was just more of the same, but worse. Like, I don't like it at all. I really don't like it. Like, I just don't get it. On that lovely note, those are my thoughts on the most hyped albums of 2016. I hope you agree with me, because I obviously have an amazing opinion, but if you don't, I'm sorry that you're so wrong about everything. I'm kidding. Obviously, if you disagree with me, live your dream. And like I said, music is very subjective, and I would never pretend that you can just decide what's good and what's bad, which is why I really hate critics. But I'm done with that. Try to be chill. Be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed me shouting at you. And I'll do it more. All for free. At no cost to you. I can keep shouting at you. All you have to do is subscribe. And if you want, you can hit the little bell after you subscribe. And that way you'll know immediately whenever yelling has begun. Or singing. It's usually singing. The occasional yelling. You can also watch some videos I've made. Oh, there's one right there. And, oh, there's one right there too. Crazy. Check this out. If you subscribe today, you'll get a free tomato. So I think it's pretty obvious what you should do.